Good morning, everybody. Are we waiting?
Being a smart aleck.
Good morning, everybody. So great to see everybody's faces. Oh my goodness, in person. This is really an exciting day, and we're here for the May 21st meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission, and we're going to start with the roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly. Neoma Jordan.
Here.
Ed Lawson.
Here.
Von Hartung.
Here.
Oscar Delgado. Cole Mortensen.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Here.
Adam Spear.
Here.
For the record, Bob Lucy is not in today.
Thank you very much. And before we go into our Pledge of Allegiance and our remainder agenda items, I did want to read a statement. You may have noticed that because masks are no longer mandated by the governor, many of us are not wearing them here in the chambers. Those of you who are fully vaccinated are also free to remove your mask if you so choose. If you are not fully vaccinated, we kindly ask that you please leave your mask on. So thank you very much for that. And at this time, we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would love if Mr. Cole Mortensen would lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, at this time, we will move into item 1.3, proclamations. Okay. All right, at this time, we're going to read item 1.3, a proclamation, where it is Public Works Professional Week, and we are going to focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Washoe County. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of the government and private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential to our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the residents, civic and public leaders, and children in Washoe County to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding, excuse me, of the importance of public works and public works programs. And whereas 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, that's a mouthful, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, and I resolve as Neoma Jordan, Chair of the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, proclaim the week of May 16th through 22nd as National Public Works Week, and I encourage all residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association, the RTC of Washoe County, and the government agencies in commemorating this incredible Public Works Week. So congratulations. I think I feel like one of our engineers should have read that because they do the incredible work. And our public works folks, I will just say, often go unrecognized, and we don't call them out often enough, but every road you drive on, every time you use a water system, all those things are public works, and they're so incredibly important to our day-to-day activities, and we don't give them enough attention. So I'm glad we are calling them out here today.
We had all of our engineers down there.
I know, and I should have had one of them read the proclamation. But we appreciate all of you. You do incredible work, and we're very thankful for it, so thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, we are now on to item 1.4, presentation on bicycle safety.
He is not on Zoom at this time, so we'll pick that up later.
Okay, we'll move on at this time to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
Only the items I gave you, the two in front of you.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we're going to call, I'm trying to see if these for specific, this one's for a specific agenda item. Okay. Is that what that is? Elaine? Okay, Elaine Franzen.
trying to assume this is working, yes. Good morning, valued member of the board. Good morning, Madam Chair. Absolutely great to be here today, fully vaccinated, first trip in 1 year, so quite excited to be in Reno with you today. Really, I'm Aline Franzen, I'm the CEO for Kyodi Transit America. I am extremely thankful for the partnership we had together for the last year. Reno is one of the only locations where we maintain 100% of our services. Sorry, I'm emotional. That's the first time I speak in public in more than 1 year. I have been on Zoom for about a year, so quite nervous to be here with you. So thank you for your partnership. Thank you for the 100% of services we have delivered together. Today we have about 68% of our drivers that are fully vaccinated. It's a record in the United States. So thank you for making this happen for us. We are also extremely proud of a safety record. We've had no injuries since we started the year. So quite proud of the year, of the performance we had together. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the partnership and looking forward to the next one. A lot less nervous, I'm hoping. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And you came in with some great weather we're having here today. Brought the snow with you, so thank you very much. I think it might be appropriate at this time, Director Thomas, did you want to make a comment about an item on the agenda that kind of ties to something? There might have been some confusion.
Yes, so what I would like is if the board would, when you get to consent agenda, if you would pull off item 4.13 so that we can describe, there's been some concern about the amendment to RTC's ride fixed route operation and maintenance contract, which we want to clarify. And so my thought was if we pull that out separately, then Adam Spear can walk through what that agreement is and isn't so people can understand.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wanted to say that during public comment in the event someone was here for that purpose to know that we will be pulling that off to discuss it. So thank you very much for that. At this time, we do have a special public comment. So all the staff of RTC, if you're online, tune in. And everybody here, we have something special for you. No pressure. She's just building up the anticipation. Here we go. We'll give it another minute, and then if we have to come back to it, we can come back to it. Oh, hang on. Okay, so we're going to pause on this and we'll figure out the IT issues. This is something actually quite special that I did want all of the RTC staff to be able to view here today. So as soon as we get those gremlins worked out, we will come back to that. Maybe we'll do it towards the end of the agenda. We'll get that back. Okay, well, I'm going to pop back and see if Kai is on. Kai, the bicycle? He's still not, okay, all right. We're gonna move on then. Okay, at this time, we will move on to item 3. Director Thomas, some changes.
Yes, Madam Chair. For the record, Bill Thomas, Executive Director. As I mentioned earlier, we'd like, as soon as we're done with the consent agenda, for you to pull off 4.13 for a brief explanation. I also would like for the board to pull off 6.2, item 6.2. That was a presentation that was about RTC's construction projects for the calendar year 2021. And that was a specific request of Commissioner Lucy. And since he had a conflict and couldn't be here today, I thought it'd probably be better for it to be moved to June when he's here and he can hear the presentation he asked for.
Okay, very good. Okay, at this time, we will move into the approval of the agenda with some of the modifications as presented. May I get a motion? Have a motion by Hartung, second, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, Madam Clerk, at this time, we are moving on to item 4.13.
Correct.
We had some public comment and questions come in, so wanted to clarify a couple of points on the record. First, this is a cleanup item from a item that the board approved in April. It's the same item, except that the term services was mistakenly left off the April item. That was an oversight. This is intended to correct that oversight. This amendment will not affect Keolis employees. It will not affect the relationship between Keolis and their employees or the union. That includes any effects on their job, training, interactions with customers, or any other way. We had some questions and public comment come in with concerns about that, and so I wanted to make sure that was clear for the record. This amendment is simply intended to provide a clear mechanism for RTC to request and for Keolis to provide equipment, supplies, and services that are needed in unusual or unforeseen circumstances. There are arguably some provisions in the contract that already allow that, but this provides a clear mechanism for that to happen, along with fiscal controls and a clear process for how that would work. And so this amendment was recommended by legal counsel, myself, and outside counsel, and that's the item before you. So I hope that clears up any confusion or concerns that the public may have had.
Thank you very much. I think there was, I think there was some confusion or assumptions about what it might pertain to, so I appreciate you clarifying on the record what this is and what this isn't. So with that being said, I believe we're prepared for a motion on item 4.13. May I get a motion?
Move to approve item 4.13.
I have a motion by Member Lawson, second by Member Hartung. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, Madam Clerk. We are on to item 5.1, public hearing items.
Correct.
You have to do consent?
Oh, thank you very much. We're back in person. Okay, at this time, we're going to, we did not do that.
Nope, we just pulled 4.13 out. We need to approve the consent items.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move into the approval of the rest of the consent agenda. May I get a motion? Motion by Hartung,
I wanted to see if anyone else would talk.
second by Lawson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. You'll have to forgive us. We haven't been back in person in a year, so it's going to be a little clunky for the first meeting or two. Okay, you're up. Stephanie, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stephanie Haddock, Director of Finance for the record. I'm pleased to be here before you this morning to give you an overview for the fiscal year 2022 final budget. We always start our budget process in February with our director's retreat. There we discuss our goals and projects for the upcoming fiscal year. From there, we developed a tentative budget that we submitted to the Department of Taxation on April 15th. We've also presented the budget you'll see today to our advisory committees. Both committees recommended approval to the board of this budget. Today is our public hearing for the budget, and once you have approved this budget, we have to submit it to the Department of Taxation by June 1st. We'll do that a little bit early and have it in there by May 28th. So we'll start with an overview of our revenues. We have total revenues in this budget of $198 million. The largest portion of that still being our fuel tax, budgeted at $92.5 million. That's actually a 3% increase, or $2.8 million over our budget for fiscal year 21. It's still based on a 1% increase in gallon usage and a 1.18 cent increase in gas tax due to indexing that'll start on July 1st. I do want to highlight that Fuel tax has been probably the most sensitive to the pandemic. It was surprisingly the one revenue source that actually went down during our pandemic. The remote working, the reduced tourism actually had an impact on our gallons, and we had a fiscal year 2020 decrease in gallons of 5% and a 1.5% decrease in actual revenue. And year-to-date for fiscal year 21, that we sit today at an 8% decrease in our gallons. Fortunately, I had planned on a decrease in fiscal year 21, and so we're on target to budget for fiscal year 21 actual revenue. But I just want to note that the pandemic has impacted our gallons, and I think it'll continue to impact our gallons into this budget, but it's going to bounce back. I mean, I'm sure you experience the traffic now that things are opening back up. I know I'm experiencing it, so there is a 1% increase in gallons in this budget. Our next actual largest revenue source this year in fiscal year 22 will be our federal funding at $47 million. That does include a $19.9 million in American Rescue Plan funds that the RTC directly receives from FTA. And all of that will be spent on maintaining full levels of service for both fixed route and paratransit operations. This also includes $26 million in transit capital from FTA for our purchasing transit capital, and $1.2 million in federal funding we received for doing MPO planning studies. Sales tax is budgeted at $35.6 million. That's actually a 20% increase over our fiscal year 21 budget. That sounds like a lot, and I just want to explain that is because for fiscal year 21, sorry, I was distracted. We had a decrease of 5% in sales tax planned for fiscal year 21. That 5% decrease did not happen. Sales tax has done actually very, very well during the pandemic. In fiscal year 20, we had a 6% increase over last year, and year-to-date through February, we actually experienced an 8% increase in sales tax. So when you compare it to what the estimates will be for this year, this budgeted increase will be about a 2% increase over what we'll actually see in fiscal year 21. We have $10 million budgeted from Ndot and other state funding. $8 million of that is Ndot's contribution to the this is a hard one to say, Diverging Diamond Interchange for the Lemon Drive Phase 1 project. This also includes about $1 million in employee trip reduction and van pool program federal funding, and $1 million in Medicaid funding that goes towards access eligible rides. I have $2 million in investment income and $1 million in miscellaneous, which includes our project reimbursements, lease income, and advertising income. Denise, sorry, it's happening again. All right. So for fiscal year 22 expenditures, our total expenditures will be $223 million. Most of that in our road program, which is the red and the blue shares of this pie at $120 million. I'm going to go into a lot more detail about our expenditures when we get to the programs. We have $38 million in ride operating and $23 million in ride capital, $12 million in access operating and $2.6 million in access capital, $23 million in debt service, and $4 million for both Metropolitan Planning Organization expenditures. And my slide mover is being distracted, so let's see if it worked, yay. So we have three major programs, the largest of which is our street and highway program. We're going to start with a beginning balance of $119 million, that is net of our required debt service reserve. Total projected revenues of $126 million. As I mentioned, we have $92 million in fuel tax. We also have $11.9 million in sales tax. That is 100% of the 1/8 flexible sales tax that can be used for either roads or transit. And we're bringing all of that into the street and highway program this year. Number one, because we have had some loss in fuel tax, as I explained, due to the pandemic, and because we have the American Rescue Plan funds and the good, healthy sales tax increases the public transportation program is fully funded, so we don't need to have any of this flexible money be in that program for fiscal year 2022. So we're going to use it in the street and highway program. As I mentioned, the $8 million in Ndot gas tax. We only have about $500,000 in federal funding, and that is just to close out our Virginia Street program project. We just have a little bit of federal money to collect on that. And $5 million in impact fee revenues. $152 million in program expenditures, $46 million of that in congestion and capacity projects. That includes RTC's contribution to the Spaghetti Bowl Express project. We'll be starting Lemon Drive Phase 1, Sky Vista Boulevard, Sparks Boulevard Phase 1, the Pyramid Widening Project, and there's traffic engineering intersection improvement projects throughout the region. We have $36 million in multimodal projects. That includes the start of Audie Wells, Mill Street. We have various bus stop improvement program this year, and the design of West 4th Street and Arlington bridges. We have $30 million in regional annual pavement preservation program and road rehab projects. This also includes $16 million that'll carry forward from this fiscal year for projects that won't be finished by the end of June. And then we have $23 million, as I mentioned, in debt service. At the end of the year, our ending fund balance in this program will be $95 million, and again, that's net of our required debt service reserve. However, we do need, and this is a typo, I apologize, we do need to carry that forward at our next fiscal year budget 23 as we continue to construct the road projects that we're going to design this year and finish out any construction projects that don't finish in fiscal year 2022. Oh, sorry, one too many. Our other major program is our public transportation program. It will start with a beginning fund balance of $28 million and total projected revenues of $77.6 million, $24 million in sales tax, $45 million in federal funding, again, $19.9 million in that American Rescue Plan funds. $5 million in passenger fares. That's actually a 14% increase over our current fiscal year. We're hoping that we see increases in ridership come back after the pandemic. We have $2.4 million, again, for employee trip reduction program and Medicaid rides. I have a total of $76.4 million in program expenditures, the $38 million for ride operating costs. That's a small increase, 2% increase over our fiscal year 21. $23 million in ride capital. You have a full detail of all the capital projects for the ride program, but most of that's going to be in replacing 20 buses, hybrid buses. And then we have $3.7 million in some facility improvements. We have $12 million in access and flex ride operating costs. That's a no increase over fiscal year 21. And then $2.7 million in access capital, most of that in purchasing 15 access replacement vans at $2.1 million. We'll end the year at $29 million fund balance. I do want to highlight that we have put $13.5 million in reserve for future capital purchases and grant matches. Our last major program is our Metropolitan Planning Organization program. It's federally funded with $1.2 million. There is $825,000 in proposed planning studies. Some of the major studies to be done in fiscal year 22 are the McCarran Loop Study, Verdi Transportation Study, Regional Parking Study, Advanced Mobility Study, and the Transit Optimization Plan Strategies. That's actually the new name for our short-range transit plan for so we do a short-range capital and operating plan for transit. This also includes our shared work program with TMRPA, which is funded at $60,000, and $300,000 in a safety and ridership messaging campaign. Again, we're looking to increase ridership this year after the pandemic. Included in your package was the fiscal year 2022 agency goals. I hope that you had time to review those. If you have any changes, I'm going to pause and ask that we let us know what those are, because they will be adopted with this budget. We're going to, later in this agenda, have our agency rated, and that's the goals that we rate on, so they're established right here at this time. So,
Thank you very much. Do any members or Director Thomas have any words? We'll start with Director Thomas, and then we'll go to Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a little different from the way we've done in the past. Typically, we would have the agency goals and the conversation with the board about amending or adding to those agency goals at our workshop. This year, we presented them to you, but we didn't ask you for action. So today, as part of the budget, as Stephanie has said, we're looking for you to give us any guidance or any issues that you think we should be adding on to the agency goals so that we can assure that when we come to you next year to check in how we did, that we've captured those.
Thank you very much. And Stephanie, can you put those up? Well, Commissioner Hartung.
I didn't bring them because it would be very small on the slide, but yeah, the agency goals, but she probably has them in the agenda item.
We do have them as an agenda item. I was just
attachment-
more for
attachment
the
B, yeah, for the
public's.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she just wanted them on the screen.
I just
for-
wanted them on the screen, and I understand that they're kind of small, and we have hard copies. If anybody from the public would like to see those agency goals, we can provide those.
Sorry.
Commissioner Hartung.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is kind of a dual question for Mr. Thomas, Finance, and potentially some of our engineering folks. So I know we put some money in for what I'm calling an extension of our Complete Streets program to provide safety measures on side streets, you know, stop signs, speed control devices, et cetera. The warning signs when you're traveling too fast, the solar operated speed signs, et cetera. Where is that in the budget? I didn't identify that direct line item. She's looking at me like I'm crazy.
No.
It's all
For
good.
safety
I truly am.
and
so it's
complete,
okay.
no, for complete streets. Well, Audie Wells is a.
I called it my Complete Streets program.
Okay.
It's what it recall, Director
Well-
Thomas, that we asked for a piece of funding for each one of the jurisdictions so that we could put in some measures to make the streets more, especially residential streets, more user-friendly. Not all of them are multimodal, especially out in Spanish Springs. I'll use that example. Some of them don't even have sidewalks. We have many residential neighborhoods that just don't have sidewalks, and so we need to control speeds on those streets by the use of stop signs. I know that that's not terribly well thought of by traffic engineers. They cringe and shudder and get all nervous when you do that and fumble with their hands. But also using speed humps and the ones with the plateaus on them and et cetera. So we were supposed to have set some money aside for that. Is that in the budget? Because I know we talked about having, I don't know, there was like 300,000. I had asked for about more than that.
So
I asked for several million actually. But go ahead.
There is, and we had proposed, and that's the way it would be reflected here. I don't know how. Perhaps Stephanie or Amy can tell you where exactly it is in
how's
the
it
budget.
memorialized? I just want to make sure
It was
it's in
the
Well-
TA set-aside program.
Yeah, and that's
using
not
that money.
actually physically in our budget because it's not our money. So the TA set-aside money is a grant program that, applications come forward from entities, the local entities and other agencies. And that's a pass-through from actually Ndot directly to those agencies. Ndot, RTC doesn't have that in our budget.
Okay,
so.
all right, okay. One other thing that I did not see, Mr. Thomas or Ms. Haddock or engineering staff, is we've been talking about that third lane, that potential number 2 lane going south from, essentially the Hall Road in Spanish Springs, maybe a little bit farther ingenuity, let's say, all the way down to Egyptian/pyramid where the road branches, because we've got trucks coming off that haul road. They're fully laden, and it's just a real hazard. So I didn't see that in our agency goals either.
It is not listed as a specific goal, sorry. If that is a desire, which it sounds like it is, simply we would flag that and make sure when we come back, hopefully before next year, that we would report to you on the movement of that particular project. It is an Ndot road, so we'll be working closely with Ndot, whether it's starting the design, finishing a design, having a safety study, whatever we can do to move that forward is what I would suggest you mention this as a goal so that we make progress on that.
So mentioned.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for bringing that up, because I too wondered about those additional dollars in addition, and I think we will probably bring this up as future agenda items as it relates to improvements that have come out of our Vision Zero initiative. And I know we've talked at length, Director Thomas, about improvements that relate to that initiative, tangible next year sort of improvements as a goal as it relates to Vision Zero. And of course, we've talked at length about school zones, and as you enter school zones, the need to slow people down by whatever means necessary, and what sort of engineering notification efforts might we be able to do that. So I know that's
Yeah.
something we'll probably want to bring that back in conjunction with what you're talking about.
So I should note that for our fiscal year 2023 goal, since there's no funding in this budget for that, or are we going to put that in here?
So just to be clear, in terms of the way that we're handling the agency goals is, if you give us a goal, then we will take that as direction that we need to move forward on that particular issue. And we will be reporting to you as we do that, because what you're saying to us is in the next year, this subject matter, like the one we just talked about, the third lane on Pyramid Highway, is something that you've expressly told us you're interested in moving forward. So now it's our job to go back and determine how best to do that. If that means finding resources, then we will report back to you how we're going to do that. If that means having conversations with other agencies that are going to need to facilitate it. What I would suggest to you, the most important thing right now about this is you giving us clear direction on your interest and priorities. And then we will execute, because we can't really probably answer today how exactly those will be executed, but that's how we as an organization working for you are taking this agency goal conversation.
And if I may, Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you. So I see goals, objectives and goals as things that we're trying to accomplish, and you make this list. And I guess I'm a little frustrated because I know that there's a whole bunch of things that we've been talking about that aren't in this list. And so at what point do we sit down? I know we've been zooming in, and it's been a little sort of wonky. But that said, at what point do we sit down? And I know Mayor Lawson has another goal that should have been in here as well that is not been listed. I'm not going to steal his thunder. Oh my goodness. That was,
He's hungry.
yeah, that was pretty wild. So I guess the point is at what point do we sit down so that it gets memorialized in this document so that we can say, yeah, these are our goals, and how do we prioritize them and how do we fund them?
Well, the answer to that question is that we start with the goals as usually broader objectives and then work down to the details. If there's specific items that the board does not see on these goals, the bigger goals, this is a good time for you to bring those up. And then if you would, let us bring back maybe a specific answer on where exactly that is and what we've done. It's not intended to be an all-inclusive. In other words, these goals don't cover everything RTC does. They're really the kind of leading formative things that we're working on to report back to you on. So certainly we can talk one-on-one on all the things we're doing, But I think right now, again, the most important thing would be if you look at that list and you don't see something that is very important to you, this is the time to bring it up, and we'll capture it. And then make sure that when we come back, before next year, but certainly by next year, with some reports on how we've progressed on that issue that was of importance to you.
And I guess where my frustration lies is, we have some real need in some of the outlying areas, not just District 4, but down in District 1, Commissioner Lucy's district, out in Commission District 2, rather, out in Commissioner Lucy's district, which abuts Commission District 1, out in Commission District 1 and District 5, which City of Reno and Washoe County have some real issues. Out in Sparks, we have some real issues. Going east, we have some real issues. And it almost seems like we're concentrating in other places. And it's just, I guess I'm just expressing a little bit of frustration, and which we've had offline as well. So anyways, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So we will, after today's feedback, you will bring back at a meeting soon another draft of this based upon some information that you received today. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay, so I do see on here that we are going to define the timeline for the Vision Zero Truckee Meadows Action Plan action items. So I am hoping we define that timeline to be within the 2022 agency goals as it relates to all the great work that Vision Zero has done in bringing all the stakeholders together to identify the issues, the hot spots, and the priorities, so we can then begin in earnest putting some real applications out on the street, initiatives, engineering, street improvements to increase, in particular, pedestrian safety. And I do know from the City of Reno, we are actively talking about these issues right now as well. So the coordination with the various agencies is really important. And we need to do that in 2022. In addition, the other thing that I don't see on here as the 2022 agency goals, I know that our desire to increase ridership, particularly within the university student population, is a priority for all the reasons we talk at length about. And I don't see that as what the campaign to accomplish that goal. I'm not sure where I'm seeing any of
That was actually in the MPO budget, and that was $300,000 in a safety and ridership campaign. And I know specifically part of that money is targeted towards UNR students and
I got it.
TMCC students.
Okay, so I think part of the issue that we're having here today is that we're talking about RTC money, and then there's also this pass-through money. So maybe at a future meeting, when we bring this list back with some modifications and updates, we can understand wherever the bucket comes from, the allocation and direction and priorities of this board for fiscal year 2022 and maybe even beyond, so we understand the monies, wherever they originate, where they're going. I think that's part of the confusion here today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we just want to know that it is
Yeah.
funded.
that it is funded.
Correct.
Well, I do believe there would be a presentation on the TA set-aside funding program then?
Yeah, I think at this point, what would be most beneficial, because it is, maybe part of the struggle is the way that we're doing this is we've appended this kind of bigger picture conversation about what we're trying to do as an agency with a very specific document that has to be adopted and meet state requirements. And that's probably the disconnect that's happening here.
Yeah.
So we will come back and present to you soon the connection between the things that you're interested in and where the money is.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's all it is. I think we've got our own internal mechanisms and things in which we have to check a box and make sure that we're doing, but we're talking more globally, 30,000 foot level, and frankly, from the community at largest interest point, they too aren't maybe so interested where the money's coming from or where it's passing through. They just want to know it's coming and what it's going towards. So we just need a snapshot of that, that's all.
Understood.
Okay, Commissioner Lawson, Member Lawson.
So this would be the place where I put in the extension to La Posada?
This would be the time for you to mention that specifically in terms of what the board would like to see us move forward on over the next
So-
year. Because remember, it is a 1 year. We have such grand, big, we do 20-year plans. And then we do 5-year plans, and this is really between today and next time we talk to you, you know, you would tell us if that's one of the things you want to see some progress on, this is a time to tell us you'd like to see when we come back in a year, progress on that issue.
And Madam Chair, if I could interject just quickly too. The item that's agendized is about the budget, and so the goals are, you know, I think the question of how does it affect the budget and your decision on whether or not to approve the budget? So I would just caution that we make sure the discussion focuses on that.
Absolutely. We're all talking about the budget. That are agency
Affect
goals,
the
so,
budget.
that affect the budget.
in here that are not being listed, so.
Okay.
And the extension for La Posada, for me, is crucial for the entire region with the connection between Lemon Drive and La Posada. And the fact that 35,000 of our residents travel to Story County every day in the very near future, and the deaths we're having just this week and last week. You know, we've had 3 people die on 395 and I-80. We have a lot of pressure on those. So for me, that's an important goal to start the process to look at that road.
Thank you
And
very much.
Madam Chair, if I might, given Adam's counsel on how far we should go, perhaps the best thing would be for you to, each of you, if there are things that you are interested in, to list them off now, and then we can come back if needed to have a conversation specifically about the goals, so we don't confuse the deliberation.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. It's been, well, it was great feedback. Took notes, and we will bring that back for more official adoption of those goals.
Okay, so we are bifurcating the budget from the goals at this time.
Yes, please.
So you tell me what you need from us now as it relates to the budget.
I would need a motion for you to approve our fiscal year 2022 budget without goals.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
And proper notice was given and any correspondence received?
Yes, it was no correspondence received.
Thank you very much. I think we're prepared for a motion.
Under discussion, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Hartung.
So we're pulling the agency goals out to bring at a different time, not just amend them.
That's correct. We'll have a broader discussion on the goals,
Okay.
since that seems to be the disconnect right now in what we're trying to get through, which is, of course, the budget is, as you all know, time limited because of
Yes.
state requirements. The
yeah.
agency goals, we have a
Very
little more
familiar.
flexibility.
No, I
Yeah.
had to do it every place else. So, no, I get that. I just wanted to make sure that that was I mean, if everybody's comfortable with that and we don't have to have the goals in the budget, because, correct me if I'm wrong, don't the goals have to have a funding source?
I would say as a general rule, yes, but some of these are also things
Yeah.
that external parties, for example, Vision Zero won't necessarily be 100%
Okay.
RTC. It's going to be partners and the efforts we do with
Okay.
other partners, so.
The goals do not have to be funded.
Okay. Wow.
They're just,
Tell my wife that.
yeah.
Okay.
May I get a motion on the budget?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I want to just say thank you to all RTC staff and especially my team that puts together this budget. They do a lot of hard work, and I couldn't get it done without them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and you do, and we have been deep in budget season at every one of our agencies, and it is a heavy, heavy lift.
It
And I
is.
thank you for all your work on that and your entire department, and Director Thomas, I know this is, we get to make a quick vote here today, we've talked about it at meetings, but you guys are churning it for months and months, so
Yeah.
thank you. I know it's very complicated, so thank you for
you.
your expertise
All
on
right.
that. Director Thomas, did we want to go back to, I know we were having some Zoom issues, but maybe we got them worked out?
I think we've got them
Yes,
resolved.
Madam Chair, if we can go back to item 1.4 and start back through the items that had technical glitches. You
Thank-
also had a public comment too.
I did, and I want to go back and we'll get to the item 1.4, but I also had Debbie Calkins in for public comment, and we didn't call you up. I think there was some confusion about the agenda item, so if you'd like to come up at this time. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Debbie Calkins, and I am the Secretary, Treasurer, and Principal Officer of Local 533, which is part of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I'm here today on behalf of my membership, bringing extra cleaning or special or emergency services will likely violate our collective bargaining agreement, as cleaning is part of our collective bargaining work. Teamsters Local 533 will take any and all legal action necessary to protect our contract. We respectfully ask the board to pull this agenda item, which is, I guess, a little late since you guys already approved it, until we were hoping we'd be able to have some discussion on what this exactly meant, because we do believe it will end up violating our collective bargaining agreement. We would be happy to approach the topic during the long-anticipated contract negotiations that we have upcoming, as we believe that would be the appropriate arena. Local 533 realizes the need for flexibility in the event of another pandemic and remains open to the emergency side of the letter of agreement to the collective bargaining agreement anytime there would be such a threat.
I got back on the Zoom call.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, Sally.
On Zoom, you're not on mute, just FYI. Thank you. Were you finished? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Director Thomas, did you have a comment?
It's hard to see the light on this microphone. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think just briefly, we appreciate the comment, but I just want to remind everybody that we do not have a collective bargaining agreement with anybody. We have a contract with Keolis for a service to be provided. We will certainly be respectful of and hear the comments and look at it, but we don't have a direct relationship in terms of any kind of agreement with the Teamsters. So our action is directly related to our ability to properly respond to a situation which we learned from the pandemic required some adjustments to the contract between Keolis and RTC, and that's exactly what we're doing. As Adam had pointed out earlier, this has no bearing on a relationship between an employer and employees. It's simply how do we pay for and track and make sure that we have properly demonstrated our ability to address issues that come up as an emergency, and that's really simply what this is about.
Thank you very much for that, again, that clarification. All right, Madam Clerk, are we ready for the Zoom presentation?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Michelle's going to play that for you.
We're moving back to, I understand that Kai is online now on Zoom, which is item 1.4, so he wasn't on earlier, so we are going to pop back to that now. Oh, we're not. We're doing the video now? Okay, let's do Kai first. Or not. Kai, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Now I'm unmuted.
There you are. We can hear you now.
Thank you. I'm Kai Plaskon, president of the Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance, and thanks for having us over here to talk about multimodal transportation and where we're at with bicycle safety. I do have some slides that I wanted to show. I'm not sure if you're seeing those now.
We can see them. It's the one that says Building Reno's Better Bike Multimodal Network.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's just about 10 slides or so. And so I'm going to move through pretty quickly because I know I only have 5 minutes. Just wanted to tell you really quickly about who we are at TMBA. We have thousands of people and 8 people on our board representing developers, businesses, nonprofit interests, experts at our disposal too. For more information, you can go to bikewasho.org. I wanted to talk about the economy really quick of bicycles and e-scooters and e-bikes. We have a demonstration going on this weekend on Saturday from 12 to 3, and I hope that you come. But I asked for an economic analysis from the largest company, Bird, and they showed that $1,800 in additional spending per year per scooter. And this can also translate to bikes as well. And the reason why is that it's just easier for people to move around. They don't have to think about parking, and they don't have to think about just going to one spot. They can get places faster, and that ends up causing them to spend more money, basically. $2.2 million is expected to be the total impact of the amount of scooters and bikes that can be supported in the Reno Sparks community. So moving on from there, we've got some new statistics. So the money is new, and now I've got some statistics as well. Less than 1% of our roads have bicycle and multimodal infrastructure, and we're adding only about 5 miles a year for the past 10 years or so. And according to Nevada Tomorrow, which is what Renown uses as a kind of a community health indicator, we're trending down. So we're not going up as more people are using bicycles and other forms of transportation. Instead, we're going down. So we're going in the wrong direction here. And what's the impact of this? Well, people, we anticipate, are going to continue to get hurt. It just happened this past week. This young man was hit out on the road. So as more people end up on the roads, we're going to have more conflict, or that's at least what we're anticipating. So how do we do this right? What is the correct kind of infrastructure? And MIT came out with a book just this past year on what kind of infrastructure we need, and also some of the studies. 60% of people want to be out there on bikes, but it's hard for them given the infrastructure that currently exists. On the bottom right, you see a Sharrow there, and it causes a lot of stress for cyclists. And that's one of the things that prevents that 60% of people from getting out there on the roads. Now, what does work, according to that MIT book and other sources, are things that we're doing right here in Reno Sparks. You can see on the right-hand side here, we've got a separated bike path. It's got a curb there. It protects the cyclists so they're not squished up against that wall or facing a bunch of cars. We do have a presentation, I think, from RTC. TMBA is going to be hosting it, this coming week on Thursday. So if you go to bikewashoe.org, you'll get more information on that. But these kinds of facilities, these separated paths, dramatically increase the number of people who are out on their bicycles, going out, spending their money in the way that we want, instead of driving around trying to figure out where they're going to park and being like, I'm not going down there because I can't figure out where I'm going to park. So what we really need to do is be thinking about these connected, protected, accessible paths out there and how we do it. And so we've got a better bike and multimodal network. I think that we've got a pretty good partnership with RTC trying to move in that direction so that a path just doesn't suddenly end and somebody's suddenly in danger, unexpectedly. And that way they can continue on in the direction that they're going. But these cycle tracks, like we're building, have dramatically increased ridership in Portland, Boulder, New York City, and in Davis. Center Street is another good example of where we are doing the right thing. It's at 30% design. It's been heavily studied. It's protected. It's going to bring thousands of people. It's pretty cheap too. Cost just $13 million, which is right in line with what MIT says that it should be costing around the nation and what these do cost. You compare that to what it costs for a mile of highway, that's $300 million for a mile of highway. So thinking about how we bring people in for the cheapest amount of money into a dense area is really important. So TMBA applauds RTC for approving this project. We also do have some concerns with it. There's a section that has been removed from the protected part in order to save parking. And I drove it last night and it looked like there were only about 18 to 20 parking spots that would be saved. And I don't think we want to forego safety for 18 parking spots. I don't think we want to forego that for bringing thousands of people into an area safely and improve our economic impact in that area. Also, Caesars Entertainment is interested in cycling in front of the casinos on Virginia, which is important.
I think your time is up.
Okay. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we weren't sure the clock got stuck on 2 seconds here, so.
Thank you.
Do it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, the weather didn't permit for great cycling today, but I know that RTC has always supported. I think we've got some 600 miles of bike lanes that RTC has put in place. Director Thomas, did you have some comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to quickly jump on this opportunity to address the conversation that we were scheduled to have, tentatively scheduled to have at our June meeting about an update, a status report on the Center Street project. Both myself and you, Chairman or Chairwoman, will be out in June, so I would like the board and just letting the public know that we move that status report to July, when both you and myself will be back and available at the board. So I just wanted to make sure, Kai has a very large group of people that he works with, and the word gets out there that people understand that it's not delaying the project in any way. It's just that it's better for that status report to be done in July rather than June.
Thank you very much. Do any of our members have any questions or comments at this time? All right, seeing none. We will move on. Madam Clerk, where are we?
We can go to your thank you video.
We can do the video now. All right.
Michelle's going to play that for us.
Thank you.
The Midtown expansion has really created a safer corridor down Virginia Street through Midtown.
The beautiful sidewalks we have now has made it really good for walking traffic.
Brighter street areas there for people to walk around.
The roundabout really has helped create traffic flow through Midtown.
I kind of go down that way on purpose sometimes just to kind of go around and come back through.
The roundabout is beautiful. The new art piece there, now it's all lit up during the evenings. It really enhanced the whole Virginia Street corridor.
Reciprocity, I think, really captures what this construction and this revitalization project has done. It's RTC, SNC, the Reno City Council, the Midtown District, the business owners, landowners, all really having to come together.
I think RTC has done a great job with the design, and the whole district has been lifted up.
I think that the landscaping that was done is pretty robust. I got to hand it to RTC for allowing them to accelerate the schedule the way that they did, cut that time way down, which helped.
You know, there was a time when we weren't sure we were ever going to see Midtown without cones. They're gone, thank God. Now we have beautiful Midtown without neon orange all over the place.
Oh my God, those orange cones, they felt like they were part of our life for so many years. Definitely been a joy to not see them around.
Now to see that they're all gone and this whole street is beautified is very refreshing.
Thanks to this project, people have really embraced Midtown. Thank you to RTC. Thank you for your resiliency and your effort really wanting to enhance and make Midtown beautiful.
I just want to say from our family at Soup to thank you very much to RTC and everybody that's part of this project. It's really made a change in our lives with our business, with our neighborhood, with our community, and we just want to say thank you.
Good job, RTC.
Thank you, RTC.
Thank you very much. And I know we had some technical issues. That was put together by SNC and Dan LeBlanc, and they just wanted to make sure that all of those folks that worked so hard on the Virginia Street project got a big thank you from the businesses and everybody involved. I don't know if anybody's been down to Midtown the last few weekends in particular. It is so crowded you almost can't fit on these beautifully wide sidewalks. So if there were ever questions of whether or not those wide sidewalks were going to get utilized, boy, have they been. Midtown, all the businesses are really thrilled with it, everybody that I've talked to. And they can't believe how beautiful the whole area looks now with some of the artwork in and the benches and the bike racks and the trees and those beautifully wide sidewalks. It really does look incredible and the businesses are benefiting from it. So thank you, Dan LeBlanc and SNC, for putting that video together. It was supposed to be a surprise. It got a little hitchy and glitchy there, but we got it. Okay, Madam Clerk.
We are on item 6.1.
Okay, we at this time, now that we've got our Zoom issues, I think kind of worked out, we're going to bring in Mr. Hillerby. There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be with you. Thank you very much. It is one of the final deadline days here at the legislature. Non-exempt bills have to be out of their second house. They're going to be very busy all day today at a kind of a crazy schedule. Not a lot of bills have moved the last couple of days between the houses. It's kind of a biennial ritual. Each house waits for the other to move more of their bills. So today will be a long day as they have a lot on the general file. I'll do a quick update on a couple of bills. As you can imagine, now that we're at day 110, a lot of things are in flux, but tell you about where a few bills that we've been watching are at the moment. AB 54 is the Ndot traffic safety bill, and that was included an amendment to add MPO members That has been passed by both houses and is in the governor's office. SB 362 is the microtransit bill from Southern Nevada RTC. That has passed the Senate and out of the Assembly Committee and is currently on the Assembly General file. That bill is in good shape in terms of language. AB 413 is another Ndot study advisory group. That also includes representation from MPOs and a variety of others. That is on its way to the governor. SB 285 bicycle safety bill, that's on the Assembly General file, so that should be voted out today. I don't see any issues with that and move forward, given that we just had the presentation from our bicycle advocates. They'll probably be happy to hear that. AB 343 is a bill that would require, in the two large counties, our RTCs working with health districts and others to prepare a plan about how to do walking audits and walkability. Been a kind of a long process to get the bill to the point where it is, removing fiscal notes. We would coordinate with Ndot on that. So again, to kind of put a plan together about how you might do these in the future. There's currently an amendment on that bill that would give each of the two large RTCs, ourselves in Southern Nevada, one bill draft request with the legislature. So if that amendment makes it onto the bill and the bill survives, we will have that in future years. AB 410 is construction manager at risk and construction manager as agent. One of those we've been following. That's an Assembly bill, has made it out of the Assembly and is on Senate General file today as well. And that bill seems like it will move forward. SB 141 also deals with construction manager at risk. That is on the Assembly General file. That would seemingly once and for all remove the prospective sunset of that bill that's been a contentious political issue for a decade or more on CMAR. And those bills always pass and include a sunset provision that the law would go away. This would seem to do away with that, again, once and for all. SB 430 was introduced relatively recently. That is the State Infrastructure Bank. Adds some changes and expands the allowable uses for the infrastructure bank and the definitions of infrastructure to include telecommunications, broadband, a variety of other things. There's also in the budget some money to fund the infrastructure bank. We've had it for a few years, but have not had money to put into it. So that's moving forward. That's currently in the Assembly Ways and Means Committee. It's passed out of the Senate. One bill that was just introduced last week, heard this week, is SB 448. That is a major energy bill that's been talked about all during the session. Knew it was coming. Includes a variety of pieces. One of potential interest to us is a mandate that NV Energy build an electric vehicle charging infrastructure around the state, asks them, or would direct them to spend $100 million doing that. They would recover that through the rate base, through their normal rate making process. It does not specifically mention large fleet vehicles like our buses, but there was some testimony that the long-term goal is to make sure that it's easier for school districts and others to adopt electric buses. Our staff obviously works very closely with NV Energy in the planning process, so we'll watch that closely and see if any of that build out may or may not have an impact on us or be of some benefit. And the last couple I'll mention and then be happy to take some questions. SCR 10 would study lithium and hydrogen in Nevada as part of the ongoing work of the Interim Committee on Energy. And that's again related to, in some ways related to SCR 3 from last session, looking at electric vehicles, looking at the future of alternative fuels. And lastly, SCR 11 was introduced. This is the second chapter of the innovation zones. That bill, as I think most everybody has seen, it's had quite a bit of press. The innovation zones bill never really materialized and will not move forward. That became too much of a political lift. This is a study to study innovation zones and how those might work in Nevada. It's a blue ribbon panel with members appointed by both the legislature and the governor, and a much quicker turnaround than most studies. That results of that study would be due by the end of this year, by December 31st. So we'll be continuing to watch all of these bills as they move forward, look for any mischief in conference committees, amendments on what's left for the remainder of the session, and report back, and obviously deal with your staff who have been great and always responsive and very readily available for us when we have questions. I'll stop there and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Hillaby. I appreciate all your dedication and hard work during this very strange session. Appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to represent you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well. Madam Clerk, we are on to item 6.2, acknowledge receipt of a report on RTC's construction projects for calendar year 2021.
Madam Chair, item 6.2 was pulled from the agenda. We're on item 6.3.
We are on item 6.3, acknowledge a receipt of the 2020 annual report.
Thank you. Amy Cummings with RTC. And this item is our annual report for calendar year 2020. We are glad to be finished with 2020 and pleased to present this report of the investments in the community that were made over that year. We entered 2020 with a very ambitious agenda and a significant program to accomplish. And then, of course, we're presented with challenges that our organization had never faced before. Staff spent most of the year physically separated from each other, either working remotely for the positions that could, or spaced as far apart from each other as we could in the building. But we did still come together to advance the mobility needs of the community. And I don't think we can overstate the importance of our essential workers making sure all of the other essential workers in our community could get to where they needed to go. I do want to acknowledge Lauren Ball and Nicole Coots and Michael Moreno for taking the lead on putting the annual report and video together, as well as all the RTC staff and our consultants and our contractors that continue to put the community first throughout 2020. And finally, a big thanks to our IT team that made it possible for everyone who did work remotely to do so successfully, and to our facilities maintenance team that made it as safe as possible in the building, all of the RTC buildings, for the folks who were there in person. And we have a video that's going to go over more of the highlights. The report is in your packet, and then I'll be available to answer questions. Thank you. Hopefully we have a video. We'll see if we have a video that's, if technology is cooperating.
you for that. That is always such a good video to remind us all in a visual way of all the things that we have been through and accomplished in this last year. So I always appreciate that, because there's stuff you forget that it seemed like it was a lifetime ago, but it was really recently, and it's done in a way that's that captures kind of everything that happened. So thank you for that. It's creative. Thanks to IT for putting that, and Lauren and everybody for putting that together. Amy, is that it? Director Thomas?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to start my comments on this by thanking the 5 of you, the 4 who are here, and of course our missing member. A little more than a year ago, you graced me with the opportunity to be executive director of this organization. And the past year, I've learned quite a lot about our team. And I'm very proud of, as you just saw, all the accomplishments that happened during the pandemic, where a lot of businesses were closed down and had a very difficult time maintaining their operations. I think that presentation is a demonstration of how, honestly, we really didn't skip a beat. Even though we were in a pandemic, a lot of things got accomplished. And there's a lot there, I understand. And I don't want to pick any specific project out, but I guess the one that I would shine the spot on is our maintenance of our transit system. You know, it was so integral. If you remember when the pandemic started, how the fear and the anxiety of something that was so unknown was shutting down and sending all of us homes. Our bus drivers, our operators of our transit system, they still showed up. And they carried us through the pandemic in a way that I would say was equivalent to the way our public safety people did. They were there every day. They took the passengers not knowing what they were going to be exposed to or what they were going to be up against. And they took people to their appointments. They took people to their homes. They took people to their jobs. They took people shopping. So a particular shout out to our transit operators, particularly the drivers of both Ride and Access, as well as Keolis, and in addition, our staff, our transit staff. This was probably the most challenging part of our operations, and I think all of you know it, and I just wanted to accent how important and how significant their efforts were to not only us as an organization, but the community as a whole. And often, you know, that kind of thing where you're used to it, you don't appreciate. You only notice it when it doesn't happen. But our people, as well as I need to thank to our congressional delegation, because they came through with the money that allowed us to not only keep operating, but also to expand service to make sure we had plenty of buses out there so people could spread out. We didn't drop any of our service. We made sure those few people that were riding during the peak of the pandemic had an opportunity to get a ride. So I know for all of us, this was a strange year that we hope never to repeat, but it really did allow those who are the heroes and the champions to stand out amongst us, and I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to point out, it's on our page 31 of the presentation. I don't know which slide it was. 34,526 rides, Spark Spanish Springs Flex Ride. If we build it, they will come. If we extend that Flex Ride out deeper into Spanish Springs, I guarantee you we'll get the ridership. People love it. I've had nothing but great feedback with that service, and so it's substantial. And for many years we were told out in Spanish Springs that there's no ridership, and my argument was that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've proved that wrong, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you to the drivers of the Flex Ride service. It's again, I get nothing but praise on that service. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And I do think, and I think the video kind of brought into light some of the things, again, that you kind of forget. And I just, when the pandemic hit and everything else was shutting down, it was pretty incredible to see our system and our buses still going up and down the street and making sure that those service providers and those essential workers that needed that service were still there. And I know how critical our drivers are to all of that. And they were front line and so incredibly important. And I'm glad we're taking a moment to kind of thank them publicly. And when we did the Stuff-A-Bus for seniors, that wasn't this afternoon, we have our annual Stuff-A-Bus for seniors event down at Sam's Club. But this was a special Stuff-A-Bus. This was to get the needed items to our vulnerable senior population. And the RTC stepped up with, I remember watching at the event center as so many people came forward and donated so many essential items, whether it was cleaning products or toilet paper, oh my goodness. And everybody donated stuff. And then we had to find a way to get it out to those individuals that were staying home and staying safe. And RTC stepped up. I mean, with was it the Flex Ride buses that did that? And I just remember as people were hauling out the bags of items that people had registered that they needed, and there was a fleet. It was pretty darned impressive. In addition, I don't know if you all know this, but last week, Siegel had a fire at the Siegel Suites in Sparks, and it was an electrical fire, and they needed to relocate and for a period of time kind of shelter some 150 people. And I got a call from Farah, we call her the downtown queen. She called and said, is there any way we could get a bus to help transport these individuals to other places to stay overnight? And I made one call to Bill, who made one call to Keolis, and within, I think, 45 minutes, there was a bus. And they took the individuals in and sheltered them. And it happened to be raining, I think, at the time, and it was windy and blustery, and helped them get where they needed to go. So that's how a dynamic system of people who care really works. So I just wanted to thank all of those who, after I made a phone call, I don't know how it all happened, but it happened, and you helped people in need. And it makes a difference. And RTC and the Keolis drivers, you continue to amaze me every day, so thank you all very, very much. Okay.
Director, did you want to bring up the final slide on Zoom?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So in addition to all the wonderful things that happened, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge two passings that happened in this past year. And these two individuals have been very important to the operations of RTC and the success of RTC. I think everyone knows that Mayor Smith passed away in 2020, and he was, if not the longest serving, probably one of the longest serving members of the RTC board, I think a little more than 11 years, made a substantial impact on how this organization is structured and how it operates. And didn't want to miss the opportunity to acknowledge that for all the good, that was one of the losses we had over last year. In addition, at the staff level, Deborah Hollis, who was with RTC for more than 17 years, she also passed away. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. They both made substantial contributions and will be missed, both by us as an organization as well as the community as a whole. So I wanted to take the opportunity to just a reminder and acknowledgement of their efforts and what they gave for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. And it's often said that as long as you remember people, they live forever. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6.4. We're going to rate the Regional Transportation Commission overall agency performance. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
Okay. Good morning.
Madam Chair, Board Commissioners. I am here to open up the agency rating agenda item, and then I'm going to go over a few slides, and then I will be turning it over to Mr. Thomas for the goal status. So for our RTC Employee Pay for Performance, in 2013, the board approved a Pay for Performance program for the RTC. And so what that includes is that every year we come before you and have you rate us on our overall agency performance based on the goals that are adopted for the fiscal year. And we would ask that you rate us between a 0.6 and a 1.5. 1.5 would be the highest rating possible. The board rating affects 1/3 of our pay for performance pool. And the result of your rating is a proportional amount that is distributed to each eligible employee effective July 1st. I think I missed a slide. So just overall, the agency rating is typically done in May. And also at the same time, we've already started in May, and then it continues into June, what we call common review. And so all of our employees right now are going through the employee evaluation process, and they are evaluated on their individual fiscal year 21 goals. And then we will come before you in July of this year for Mr. Thomas and his evaluation. We'll also be bringing forward, I know we have to establish fiscal year 22 goals, and we'll also be establishing Mr. Thomas's fiscal 22 year goals. So with that, if you don't have any questions on that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Thomas for the status of our fiscal year 21 agency goals.
All right, Director Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board. I know this is a very, there it is. RTC-centric meeting today, but it is our annual look at what we've done and where we've gone. So I wanted to walk through. These are a little challenging to see. I know each of you have a copy of this, but I want to just highlight some of the things that we've accomplished based on the goals that you had set out for us for last year. But just before I do that, I want to point out again, because people may not understand it, and sometimes I think for the board it's good to remember that we kind of have a unique situation here whereby the board does have an influence on how employees are rewarded collectively. So you have an opportunity in your rating. It's not a percentage, it's a rating between 0.6 and 1.5 to tell us how you feel we as a group. It's not an individual awarding, it's a group, how we as a team of 69 people have performed based on you as the leadership. So first of all, I want to touch on the adoption. One of our goals was adopting the 2050 ADA accessibility plan, and specifically the improvements we completed this past year are at Centennial Plaza and 4th Street Station. We made a significant number of improvements to those facilities, which you all know are heavily used by and frequently used by individuals who have accessibility challenges, and so we're very proud of completing those. In addition, we've made a major impact on our bus stop improvements, particularly as it relates to ADA, completing 11 of those facility improvements in the past year. Moving on to our continued emphasis on safety, with the help and helping lead the Vision Zero program, we implemented a Dusk to Dawn safety campaign. We continue to work closely with the school district on safe routes to schools. And of particular, I think, importance, and also one that people might have noticed but not really appreciated, is we've completed 100% compliance with the pedestrian crosswalk timing. And what I mean by that is some of our intersections didn't have the proper timing for pedestrians to cross the street. So we went in, it's obviously a very important thing, went in and adjusted those signals. So that improves greatly the safety of not only the drivers, but probably more importantly, the pedestrians in terms of being able to use our transportation network. Oops, let's see. Did I go the right way? Nope. Yeah. Okay. You got it? Okay. One of the big goals that you set out for us is discretionary grants, and I know this was part of the presentation on the annual report, but I did want to point to two particular grants that were large and very impactful, one of them being the $23 million for the first leg of the Pyramid Highway Improvement Project. So as you recall, we received for our community through an application prepared by RTC, $23 million to go towards the widening of Pyramid Highway. In addition, we received $4 million to add to our hybrid electric bus facilities and buses. And I think right now we're at about 80% alternative fuel, which is significant as I'm learning across the nation in our advanced placement of where we're at in terms of addressing climate change and moving to alternative fuel sources. We have also submitted 2 significant grants, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those in a minute, but the hydrogen fuel cell bus low and low no emissions grant has been submitted in addition to a community project funding request for the Arlington Bridge. So specifically getting into the projects, as you just saw, probably one of the biggest and most significant community projects that have happened in many years. We completed this year ahead of schedule and well under budget. In fact, $28 million under budget. And that was the Virginia Street project, both at Midtown and going up to the university. Very proud of that project. And I think the community, as Chair Jardin said, has been very well pleased with the effort and our ability to get it done sooner. So very proud of that, completing that. We've also done some significant improvements to the roadway system in terms of maintaining them, specifically Lakeside Drive, East Gregg Street, East Prater Way, and Kitsky Lane. Continuing with the projects of significant movement is the Lemon Drive Segment 1 project. So we have, I think, just closed on the bidding and actually selected a contractor to start construction. So Lemon Drive Phase 1 is well underway. That was our goal for this year, and we've successfully started construction, or will be in the next, I think, month or less. Another big project that I'm proud to say we've finally kind of brought to conclusion was the Southeast Connector Veterans Parkway. We settled the last piece of that project, which was the dispute we had with Granite. So that project has been closed out. The right-of-way has been transferred to local agencies, and the last piece we're still monitoring and working on is the wetlands that was created as part of the project. So effectively, that project is finally completed in terms of what all the steps are for RTC. In addition, actually the bid opening, I think, is next week, the Audie Wells project, which everybody knows is a very significant project that's going to have a big impact both on the city of Reno and the city of Sparks and the region as a whole. So very proud of our team for getting that design completed and getting it out to bid. And we will be starting actually on the east end of the project in Sparks and moving to the west, but I think you'll see some very significant and beneficial improvements, hopefully to the tune of what we've seen in Midtown on Audie Wells when we're complete. The Arlington Bridge project, which has been one that's been very significant in terms of our roadway needs in the region, that got through some major points of moving forward, not the least of which was defining the alternatives for how we're going to do that bridge, which was approved and presented to the Reno City Council and is moving forward now to the NEPA process to be able to go to the next step of actually building that project. I did want to point out of significance is Congressman Amodei made a decision in terms of his community-directed funding, which is a new federal process. He put in the Arlington Street Bridge project for $6 million, and he also put in the hydrogen fuel cell. So both of those applications, and it was very competitive. There were a lot of people, I understand, that had asked for what is a relatively small bucket of money at the federal level from our congressman. And we were able to successfully get both of those projects. accepted and submitted by him. So I do want to thank, on behalf of our organization, Congressman Amodei for picking those two projects. We continue to work on ADA accessibility projects, particularly in terms of sidewalk and pedestrian connectivity and ramps. And on Sparks Boulevard, which is probably one of the up-and-coming very large projects that we'll be working on, we've moved forward with the NEPA process, which is instrumental in moving such a large project forward. But perhaps most importantly, in terms of our transportation network, is there was a decision made to move early towards an early action project, which will really be moving from 4 to 6 lanes on that portion of Sparks Boulevard, which is south of Interstate 80. So we're not going to let the time it's going to take to move through design of Sparks Boulevard to not be able to move forward elements. So that should be starting this year. And the next two goals relating to the adoption of the 2050 transportation plan. So while that was a very lengthy and difficult process, I think sometimes we forget how much went into that. A lot of effort, a lot of study. It is the most important document that we use as a region to define our transportation network. And in spite of the pandemic and all the challenges of working with the member groups, we did get through that, and it's actually been adopted and by the board and accepted by FHWA and FTA. So those are major accomplishments to be able to get that document done and through those two approval agencies. As Commissioner Hartung mentioned, we also were successful in expanding the FlexRide pilot program. So that was a very big thing for us as an agency to see how that tool works. And I would say that we've had some very good success in that meeting the transit needs in a different way than we have historically. So it's going to be very transformative in how we provide service, and also is going to make us a little smarter about how we do things. So looking forward to the next generation of that, but definitely a big success in the world of transit. So the last couple of items that I wanted to touch on is, as far as transit, not surprising, and we've reported it, that the ridership is down with the pandemic. Particularly when it started and everybody was told to stay home, that had a direct impact on our ridership. But as we mentioned previously, there were a lot of people who didn't have a choice, a lot of essential workers who needed to ride on our buses, and those people continue to ride through. We've been very lucky, in great part, I would say, because of our transit team and working with our transit providers, Keolis and MTM, to be able to maintain a system through the pandemic, unlike other regions and other places in the country. And I can say proudly that even though we've had a 30+% drop, we are well ahead of most places across the country in terms of where our transit system is. And I think it's directly attributable to our delegation's support and funding to allow us to run our system in spite of the loss of fares, in spite of the loss of riders, in spite of other things that were going on in our economy. And I think that directly plays into the fact that our loss of ridership was nowhere near what we've seen across the country. And that will be one of our goals moving forward, is to get more riders back on the bus. We've implemented the BRT operations, which is significant to our efforts to increase ridership. We've continued to work with the Downtown Reno Partnership, particularly at 4th Street Station, to assure that we have a safe and pleasant place for our riders to transition between our buses. And then lastly, on both on the cost controls and sustainability, I would point to the programs that we've done in terms of moving as I mentioned earlier, our system over to 80% alternative fuels, major stride in our sustainability efforts. And our continuing work with the state on the transition to electric vehicles and a transportation network in great part driven by electric vehicles. As far as specifics on implementing facility improvements, I did want to touch on that we've completed the design for, hopefully in the near future, moving our board meetings to our own facility in our Terminal Way building. The design's complete, and the projects, if they haven't, will be going out to bid soon, and we'll be modernizing the elevators in the Terminal Way. So, can't miss this since Cole's here. Last item I want to touch on is the continuing work with Ndot. I'm sure anybody driving around has or will experience the substantial and important efforts of Ndot on the Spaghetti Bowl, and that continues to be our highest priority transportation network improvement. And we're working very closely with Ndot, and that project, I'm sure Cole might talk about it. He will mention what the latest is with that. We've also been working with Ndot on McCarran study and Mount Rose Highway. So I appreciate you giving me all that time to run through everything. It was a long list, but there were a lot of things that you asked us to do, and I would say in summary that the staff at RTC were very successful at implementing the directions and the leadership that you exhibited when you told us what you'd like us to do over the past year. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it back to Angela if there's anything specific you want to add.
No, just if we can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I turn it to my fellow members if they have any questions or comments.
Just one quick comment.
Yes, Member Lawson.
I will say that the first contact I had with Senator Cortez Masto was her to congratulate us on getting the grant for Pyramid Way, and that the RTC's application was so far above the other applications that they couldn't say no. So that says a lot about staff right there, and the thoroughness and making it real easy for the senators to fund that money. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when will we be doing this rating? When are we going to actually go through this process?
Well, we're requesting if you are able to do it today.
Today?
Yes.
Like out loud? I'm just
If
a question.
possible.
Okay. Do we have a program in place for the bus drivers for the same thing? Does Keolis have something to give them incentives the same way that we give our employees incentives?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out and let the board know.
Yeah.
It's not part of course, since we're not directly involved, but I'll find out and I will get an answer back to you.
But as part of our agreement with them, I think it's reasonable to have something in place as we do for our employees as well, as part of our contractual arrangement with them.
I'll make the inquiry and report back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
1.5.
Yes, thank you. I will say, you go over the list, and it's just like that video. You just forget all of the things that have been done in the last year and done during the middle of a pandemic. The Virginia Street project, most certainly taking advantage of a shutdown and expediting that project and getting everybody on board to expedite that project to take advantage of being shut down, I think was a super creative and effective way to not double hit the businesses that, coming out of it to have impacts of construction going on at their front door and have that all kind of buttoned up when stuff started to open up was a big deal. And again, just how everybody just churned through it in the middle of a pandemic and brought top-notch customer service. And I too, and I understand it's separate, but a way in which we can continue to recognize those frontline folks as best we can for the year in particularly that they just went through. So, and I know I did some small thing of ice cream. That was such a small gesture, but it was meant to just kind of go, we see it, we get it. We want to make sure that they understand that we recognize the job that they do on a daily basis. So, and thank the staff. I think sometimes we might take for granted how amazing the RTC staff is. And I sit and look out, how long have I been on this board? 7 years, 8 years? And I see many of the same exact faces who have been doing the good and professional work here. And sometimes I think we take for granted that those are the same great faces. And I can tell you from an entity at the city of Reno that went through a period of tremendous turnover and how disruptive that was. And how when you lose great folks, recovering from that is a tough, tough thing. So always putting front of mind the people, the people, the people. And making sure we're recognizing good work in an effective and individualized way. Always the people. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the RTC staff, all the bus drivers, all the maintenance workers. You know, we get to sit up here and say the things we say, but your guys are the ones that are doing the work. Yeah, you are the boots on the ground and the hands on the bus wheel and doing it every day in super tough conditions and under crazy circumstances. And you did it with grace and grit and with a agency and a community objective in mind, meaning there was a lot of me and not a lot of we in the last year, but you all had the focus of the we. And it helped us through, and it helped deliver a lot of folks to that job to keep the food on the table. And projects that you turned out, the Zoom meetings and I just can't even, sincerest of thanks. And I know under your leadership, Director Thomas, you jumped in this job under probably the hardest of circumstances, and you led in a way that we all appreciate, and I just can't say enough good things. There's always things we need to improve on and look to improving on, always, but to not recognize the good and incredible work that this agency and its employees did during a pandemic year, just sincerely appreciated. So thank you all. So, Director Thomas, at this time, we each kind of call out our number. I'm trying to remember how we do this.
You know, I'm not so sure, so I'll turn it back to Angela. How
are we supposed to write it on a piece of paper? Are we supposed to just, I think we just kind of start out and say, I make a motion that we.
Madam Chair, I believe Commissioner Hartung already commented on his number.
I commented on a suggestion for our number, 1.5.
But it is in the form of a motion. Okay.
Madam Chair, it would be in the form of a motion.
Okay, thank you very much. So Commissioner Hartung, would you like to confirm for the record your motion?
Yes, I move that we rate the agency at a 1.5 for this last year.
May I get a second on the motion? Ooh, with authority. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now, Madam Clerk.
We are on item 7.1.
7.1. Bill, you're up again.
Yeah, this is the meeting where I get to talk a lot. So I apologize for talking so much, but it is what it is. I have a couple of items, of course, I want to bring up to the board under my report. Some of them may be a little bit of an overlap, but maybe embellish a little more from what you've heard so far. So first, just an update that we've been doing regularly with the pandemic is in relation to vaccinations. I would say that we, both Keolis and MTM, continue to encourage their workforce to get vaccinated for their safety and the safety of their coworkers, families, and their passengers. As you all know, vaccinations aren't mandatory. It really is a thing where it's highly encouraged and up to the individuals to make their decision about being vaccinated. But both of our partners are continuing to offer it to our employees, and I'm sure we will encourage in any way we can people to take the vaccination without it being an obligation or a requirement. As far as the masks and who wears them and how it works, it is the recent determinations about masks certainly causes us to make sure we make it clear to everybody that as far as the bus and the transit system, we are overseen by the TSA and the CDC in terms of how the buses are operated. So masks are still required on buses and will be required in terms of what we've been told by the federal government because we're part of the transportation network until September 13th. So RTC is complying with this federal requirement on all our transit services and transit facilities through signage and social media. So we've put out an extra effort to make sure that people understand you still need to wear your masks on the buses. My understanding is when the removal of masks from general society was announced that it did, for a short period of time, cause some confusion in our riders, but that's been clarified, and we will do that extra effort to make sure that people know that. In fact, what you have before you is the most recent.
You've got a misspelling, sorry.
Oh, apparently there's a misspelling, which we will take care of, but the most recent publication that we put out, just to make it clear to people that the TSA and CDC are independent of any state or local requirement, and those are the agencies that drive how we operate on the transit system. So as you heard earlier this morning on Bike Safety Month, I wanted to highlight Bike Safety Ride event with some photos. Hopefully, those don't look like bicycles. Yeah.
There's one kind of bike.
That's Mayor Lawson's version of a bicycle. So an event was held at Billinghurst Middle School earlier this month. This included more than 130 students, staff and volunteers, including Reno and Washoe County School District Police, working with MJ McLeod, Safe Routes to Schools coordinator. The kids learned about safety in a school assembly and received safety materials to bike safely to and from school and in their neighborhood. Mayor Lawson also participated, I believe, on his bicycle. Maybe we have a picture? On his Harley bicycle. In the ride event at Lena Juniper Elementary School. This year, a record 15 schools participated, and we feel like made a significant impact on the youth to make sure they understand the importance of properly operating bicycles. For information and a calendar of ongoing activities and events offered by Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance, please visit their Facebook page or their website at bikewashoe.org. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto has introduced legislation to strengthen infrastructure that fosters travel and tourism, particularly in Nevada, where we've been hit hard by the pandemic. The Travel Act, which she has authored and is bringing forward, would provide key financial support for transportation networks in Nevada, launch an Office of Travel and Tourism within the U.S. Department of Transportation, create a $1.2 billion national travel mobility program to decrease congestion, improve safety, promote efficiencies in freight travel, and include many other projects that make travel easier in the Lake Tahoe Basin along Interstate 80 and Interstate 15. The RTC strongly supports her bill and have given our endorsement to the proposed legislation. Our thanks to the Senator for her advocacy and leadership in this front, and we're hopeful, I'm sure as she is, that this will have some direct and soon effective benefits to returning tourism and trips back to our region. Our FlexRide Incline Village Sand Harbor pilot transit service, yay, will begin on Saturday, May 29th. So we've been talking about that for some time. Very glad to see that kicking off. The service will operate from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week, starting this Memorial Day weekend, and will run through Labor Day holiday weekend in September. Reservations are required to be made 1 to 3 days in advance by calling 775-335-0035. Fares are $5 per person per one-way trip, $2.50 for a reduced fare for those who qualify, and a $2 entrance fee into Sand Harbor for those who are going to the park. Children 5 and under ride for free with an adult, plus the additional $2 Sand Harbor entry fee. Fares can only be paid using the Token Transit app or by purchasing a ticket at RTC's 4th Street Station or RTC Centennial Plaza. Proof of purchase for round-trip tickets are required when boarding. The FlexRide vehicles are ADA accessible with wheelchair lifts and currently have room for up to 6 passengers each. The vehicles are equipped with bike racks and luggage nets. The FlexRide Incline Village Sand Harbor service begins its route at the Summit Mall Park and Ride location and ends at Sand Harbor with stops in between. For information, go to rtcwashoe.com/FlexRide. We want to thank the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and our regional partners for working with us to bring this pilot service to fruition. I also wanted to give special shout out to Senator Cortez Masto for her support and her announcement of this service last August in the advancement of the 24th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. I'm excited to announce a new partnership with Lowhutton Audubon Society, the Bird by Bus Transit Program. People can now enjoy birding in the Truckee Meadows using the transit system to reach parks. Information is available at Lowhutton Audubon Society's website, nevadaaudubon.org and rtcwashoe.com. The Public Relations Society of America Sierra Nevada chapter has awarded RTC an Award of Excellence for the Virginia Street Project Outreach Communications. The award was given at their virtual event last week in the category of Strategies and Tactics, Audio, Video, and Webcasts. Congratulations to the RTC Communications team and the Project Outreach team for this recognition. As Chair Jardin pointed out, and the last item I have today is the Stuff a Bus for Seniors donation drive, which will run from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Sam's Club at 4835 Kitsky Lane in Reno. This is the 8th year of an annual event, an event that we've been doing now for quite some time and is very successful. We encourage people to bring new and unused items to the donation location where volunteers will collect the material. And we'll be wearing masks and following safety and social distance guidelines. Donors do not need to get out of their cars. Particular needed items include sweatshirts and sweatpants, bus passes, jackets, gift cards, cleaning supplies, and hygiene products and adult diapers. So that was a lot, and I appreciate your attention and patience, and thank you for the opportunity to present that report.
Thank you very much. It was the Bill show today. You had a lot to cover. Thank you very much, all those highlights. Do any members have any questions or comments at this time for the director?
Just a comment for you.
Oh.
Congratulations on the Stuff-a-Bus stuff.
Thank you.
You know, but I want to know, is there a difference between new or unused? I'm trying to have I'm weighing it out. What's the difference?
Just move on.
Yeah.
New and unused.
No, new or unused. What is?
I think it meant and. New and unused. Don't bring us any of your leftovers.
Those are my dad jokes.
In a nutshell.
No, congratulations.
Thank you. And the
Madam
Stuff-a-Bus
Chair.
really has kind of taken off into
has,
something that's kind of an annual thing that the
People
community
don't realize
recognizes.
how much you've put into that.
Yeah,
and so I want to give you kudos
Oh,
for that because
you.
you really do put your heart and soul in that, and it has
Become a
taken off with
tradition.
great guns. It
I'm
has.
thankful for it. So thank
Well
you for
done.
all those the county in particular who is kind of taking the lead and helping promote that event as well. And the seniors in our community have, they have lots of ongoing needs. And as Director Thomas said, the items in which you donate really do go to those who need it most, and they appreciate it very, very much, and can mean all the difference in the world. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. At this time, we're going to move on to the federal report. Bill, you're up again.
One more time. Thank you, and I'll be very brief today. I just wanted to draw your attention to two things. One of them, you've heard her name mentioned frequently, but I can't say enough how important and how involved and how committed, in my experience, Senator Cortez Masto is to our community. As recently as this week in a Senate banking hearing, which is very important, and was with the two secretaries, the Secretary for HUD and the Secretary for U.S. Transportation, she mentioned our Virginia Street project and her desire to see us retain the more than $10 million in federal funding that was allocated to it. So very special and a national level for RTC's project to be pulled out, and I just wanted to, and I know all the board agrees, to appreciate and thank her publicly for doing that. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, Congressman Amodei, in the community funding request, which is the new method of locally designated money coming through Congress, he did put both of our projects forward. So we have $6 million for our hydrogen fuel cell and $6 million for the Arlington bridges that he's put into the mix for hopefully funding in this new program that's starting in Congress. So those are the two most important things I wanted to bring to your attention on the federal report. And again, thank both Senator Cortez Masto and Congressman Amodei. And of course, Senator Rosen is very supportive too, but specifically I wanted to draw those things out in my report today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the federal report? Okay, seeing none, and I'll just echo as well, Senator Cortez Masto has been a rock star on so many fronts for us. It's hard to even list all of the things that she's truly been an incredible leader and appreciative. And Congressman Amodei as well, always available, always champions our issues. And we're very lucky to have both of those representatives. Okay, moving on to 7.3, our Ndot report. Mr. Mortensen.
All right, good morning. I'm filling in for Director Swallow for the record. Cole Mortensen, Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation. As always, we begin with safety. Across the state, traffic fatalities are up 17% from the same time last year, and 109 people have lost their lives on Nevada roads so far in 2021. 9 counties saw increases in fatalities from the same time last year, including 7 counties with jumps of 100% or more. Here in Washoe County, there was a 37% decrease in fatal crashes year over year, from 16 fatalities to 10 the same time this last year. Also in Washoe County, motorcyclist fatalities decreased 50%, bicyclist fatalities remained at 0, and pedestrian fatalities went down from 6 to 4. Another figure to note on the slide is 24 unrestrained motorists who have died. That is up again this month, statewide and in Washoe County, where there have been 3 unrestrained motorist fatalities. Buckling up is the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself in a crash. It only takes seconds, and this one action can reduce the risk of serious injury or death in a crash by 50%. Once again, as we do all too often, we see that the top causes of fatalities in Nevada were impairment and speeding. Late last month, a 5-year-old girl was killed when a driver who was suspected of impairment and in the act of fleeing police ran a red light at East 9th and Sutro Streets and struck the car that she was riding in. The girl was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, which she succumbed to hours later. After the crash, the driver who ran the red light and his passenger fled the scene, and the driver was apprehended and was arrested on multiple charges, including reckless driving causing death and DUI causing death. Our choices behind a wheel, to buckle up or not, to drive buzzed or to speed, can have fatal consequences. The state is reopening, summer travel is nearly upon us, and many people are going back to work. This all adds up to more people on our roads. Please do your part to protect yourselves and others. Drive sober, don't speed, and always buckle up. And as we do monthly, we'd like to provide a status report on the Spaghetti Bowl project, and we have a lot to cover here. You've heard us talk about the major Interstate 580 lane and merge changes dubbed the Big Squeeze that launched in early March. You've probably felt the squeeze and will continue to do so for a while longer. Most recently, southbound I-580 between Mill Street and 2nd Street was shifted further to the east, and the entrance and exit ramps have been modified. The current traffic configuration will be in place for the next year, including I-580 southbound traffic will be shifted slightly below the bowl. The I-80 east to I-580 south ramp will be shifted onto a temporary ramp, and the I-80 west to I-580 south ramp will be reconfigured to merge with I-580 traffic as opposed to the current dedicated merge lane. Traffic is adjusting to the new configuration. We remind those that are traveling in the area, travel delays should be expected. Drivers are encouraged to consider alternate route, allow for extra time, and slow down and be attentive for new merge and lane patterns. This traffic control configuration allows for the west side of I-580 improvements to be completed, including the interchanges at Mill Street and 2nd Street. Work will continue to ramp up and progress between southbound and northbound lanes throughout the year. Crews are still doing demolition work at the Truckee River Bridge and will work to build the Vassar Street, Mill Street, 2nd Street, and eastbound I-80 to northbound US 395 ramp bridges. The US 395 ramp, I have my notes here. The contractor will begin the demolition of the bridge crossing over the UPR 4th Street in the near future, and there will be some short-term closures of 4th Street to accommodate this work. Travelers can also expect to see ongoing work on neighborhood walls and utility work. The contractor on this project, Ames Q&D, coordinates with first responders biweekly and is following the project's transportation management plan. This project remains on schedule to achieve substantial completion in late fall of 2022. And we also would like to thank the RTC for the opportunity to share the project update on the upcoming episode of The Road Ahead, and we look forward to taking part in filming the show. Another project in the area that we'd like to report on is the project to repave and improve 15 miles of Mount Rose Highway and State Route 28, centered around Incline Village. Road work on the project launched this week, and that means that through June, drivers will see single lane closures on Mount Rose Highway near the summit as crews install roadway conduit and improve drainages. Drivers should anticipate up to 30 minutes travel delays. The majority of the delays should be less than that, but we always have that out there. From 8 p.m. Sunday evenings through noon on Fridays. Following the work on the Mount Rose Highway, drivers will see single-lane closures on State Route 28 through October. It's important to remember that this is a multi-year project, and we have set up a website, phone hotline, and email and text alerts to keep the community members and drivers updated throughout the project. Simply visit inclinehighways.com for updates. We also have had an opportunity to update the RTC transit staff on the project to ensure that they have recent project updates, which is particularly important with the start of the RTC's transit service on the Mount Rose Highway. And has been mentioned several times throughout the meeting, May is Bike Month, and Ndot continues to encourage alternate transportation modes to reduce congestion, support physical health and mental health, and improve and provide an opportunity to teach the younger generation roadway safety tips. May is traditionally celebrated as National Bike Month and includes Bike to School Day. This month is supported by the League of American Bicyclists and the National Center for Safe Routes to School. Earlier this month, as part of Nevada Moves, an initiative started by Nevada as part of the Bike Month, many Nevada school districts held Bike to School activities. For those of you who could not attend an organized event last week, or if you live in a county or school district that did not hold one, we encourage you to get out on a bike or on foot anytime this month. Signs of spring in Nevada are all around, so go outside, get on a bike, and soak up nature. Please take part in Bike Month safely. So as we continue, we've seen communications and technology change over the past year particularly, and we'd like to make sure that we're continuing to communicate with the public in the best way possible. And I know the RTC and many of its users are active on Twitter, and what we wanted to do is invite you to follow our new regional account, which is at Ndot DOT Reno. And we're still posting our updates on the statewide account, which is at Nevada DOT. But what we want to do is we want to set up the regional account so that it's more specific to those that are interested in the activities in the area, rather than providing you statewide updates that might not be as much of an interest to you or the community. One last slide here, and what we'd like to do is in February, Director Swallow informed the board that on the heels of Tracy Larkin Thomason's departure, that Jeff LaRue would be serving in a temporary capacity as acting Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance. We're happy to announce that Jeff has accepted the appointment to now serve permanently. We told you a little bit about Jeff last year as he took the reins as Assistant Director of Engineering, and again in March when he stepped into the void left by Tracy's retirement. Jeff's 25-year career with the department gives him a wide range of and depth of knowledge that will serve him well in this position. Jeff's been proactive and an active contributor to our executive leadership team, and we're thrilled to have him on board officially in that capacity. And that concludes the director's report for Ndot.
Thank you very much. Can you read that Twitter handle again? I tried the Nevada DOT Reno and I didn't. Nevada DOT, okay. It didn't want to find it. Okay, thank you. That's great. Appreciate that. Thank you for all of your updates and all of your work that you continue to do in our region. Do any members have any questions? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Mortensen, I'm going to embarrass you for just a second. You may not realize, that I know this board does, this is our heavy lifter. When we want something done, Cole gets it done. And I want to thank you publicly for the hard work. I'm not going to outline the things that you and I have collaborated on, but I will just say you, sir, are a heavy lifter. You're a power lifter. And this is not a comment about the director. She has many other things to do, but you, sir, are a get-her-done guy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I take a lot of pride in doing what I can to help the state and the communities that we affect. So thank you. That really means a lot.
You have done a great job. And I say that sincerely, and I thank you sincerely.
Thank you. There's been a lot of thank yous today, but I do think it's important as we open the Nevada Cares campus this week, the acquisition of the Governor's Bowl property would never have happened without you.
Without Cole.
That's right. Cole's the one that did the heavy lifting, along with Jonathan Shipman in the City of Reno Attorney's Office. But sincere thanks. We gave you a shout out at the ribbon cutting. But we know that you were the ones that you were the one that was helping to expedite things on a timeline that's never been done in history, and without your leadership and making it a focus, and the governor as well, it never would have happened, because the Governor's Bowl property was the domino that needed to fall in order for us to acquire the other property and then get the structure constructed in the timeline that we had to. So. Thank you, sincere thanks. You were critical on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I have to thank our staff for that. You know, we sometimes have to ask them for more than what they're used to, and you know, as you and the staff of the RTC know, you know, we have good people working for us, and they pull through, and it's great to see. So thank you again.
Did. So thank you for that, Commissioner Hartung.
And just one more thing. So on that, Cole, really need that third lane.
You knew there was an ask.
I want to see that lift. No, it's not blackmail. I ask Director Swallow almost every single meeting about that third lane. So I'm not gonna give up my run here. It's desperately needed. And if you ever want to drive it, let me know. We'll go drive it, and you'll shake your head. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 8, Commissioner announcements and updates. Do we have any announcements or updates from the commissioners? Okay, I see heads nodding no. At this time, we will move on to item 9, closing public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any closing public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. May we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. None opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.